and embrace their magnificent, authentic selves. So without further ado, we welcome Connie Sobczak.
Thank you, Joey. I am really happy to be here, and I'd love to start out by saying my daughter's a 1L law student here, and sent me the promotional materials, and she said, "Oh, Mom, it looks like you're a Cal alum now." So I want to say that I'm a Cal dropout because of my eating disorder. So I want to start my story there because I don't think I'm alone. I was here, I transferred here in 1979 as an engineering student. I was told by my physics teacher in high school that if I got my electrical engineering degree and then got my MBA, I could run the newly emerging Silicon Valley. And I believed that I could. When I got here, I had a very serious eating disorder that I didn't even know had a name. I had bulimia. And at that time, there was no even word for it, just in the common lexicon. So I struggled a lot, and I dropped out several times thinking something was wrong with my course of study. And finally, after doing that a few times, I realized that something was wrong with me, and I started to realize that I needed help. So I left, and I'm really sad about that. But what I am grateful for is that my passion, I ended up going and getting a degree in psychology from another school, and then I became a massage and body worker practitioner and worked with people around body image through hands-on touch and somatic work. And then from that was born the Body Positive. So for the last 23 years, this is the work that I've been doing to make sure that nobody else goes through what I went through, if I can. So how I got here too was my eating disorder started in my teen years. All of my friends hated their bodies, and it was just very common to have body shame, and dieting was just so common. But the other piece of my story is that my sister Stephanie, who was really big, she was tall, she was 5'11", and just a big person. And there was a lot of shaming that happened to her, especially at the dinner table. My dad talking about what she was eating, and did she want to eat that? Do you know how many calories are in that, Stephanie? And so she, independently of me, developed bulimia. She also got breast implants when she was in her early 20s because she thought something was wrong with the shape of her nipples. And so she went to the doctor, the surgeons, to fix them. And they said, why don't we put in breast implants so you can have bigger breasts while we're here. And one of them hardened. The two doctors took their forehands and crushed her breast. And the implant oozed silicone into her body. She developed lupus, an autoimmune disease, and at the age of 36 died from complications of her eating disorder because she was still malnourished. She never got over her bulimia, and also then the lupus cerebritis, complications from that. So I was lucky. After my many dropouts here, I was really struggling a lot, and I think what really happened was I realized that I wanted to live. I was at a point where I didn't want to, and a few interesting incidences happened that woke me up, and I really reached inside for that little tiny spark that was left of my life force, and I said, I'm gonna live. And if I'm gonna live, I'm gonna live. And doing this thing with my body and hating it and thinking something's wrong with it is not living. That is a half-life. And so I committed my 20s to healing. I created a beautiful relationship with food. There was no intuitive eating field at the time. I figured it out for myself. There was no intuitive exercise or anything understanding of that. I learned how to back off from compulsive exercise and find joyful exercise. And I created a beautiful relationship with my body. And part of that was connecting with my ancestors and who I come from, and that this body came from a long line of people. So we're going to talk more about that later, and I'm really excited. So this is what I didn't have. This is a workshop, or training or workshop we did at Cal many years ago. And what was so fun about my story is that after I started the Body Positive, I came back probably, it was probably around it was probably around the year 2000. One of our first peer leaders that Elizabeth and I trained was a student here and teaching a decal class, and had over 100 people in her class. It was just everybody wanted to talk about these issues. And I came back, and her class was in the engineering building. And I walked in, and all these differential equations were on the board, and I was like, oh my God, this is my life. So coming full circle and telling my story and having all these students come up afterwards and sobbing, saying, I have bulimia, this is my story. And so this work has been, the story, how I got here is painful, but the work that Elizabeth and I have been doing has transformed thousands of lives at this point. And just one also side note, I started the Body Positive after my sister died because my daughter Carmen was a year old at the time. And I was just absolutely powerfully positive that she would never, ever, 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 ever struggle with her body, because I wanted her to grow up and be able to go to school and focus on what she wanted to do with her education and understand that who she was physically was absolutely incredible. And that's happened. And so to see, what she's been able to do, it was an experiment. As a parent, it is possible to raise human beings who love their bodies. It doesn't mean every day is perfect, but overall to be able to come back inside and say, this is mine, and I know myself, and I'm going to make decisions from this place of love. So a little bit about the Body Positive history, just how we developed our Be Body Positive model was that Elizabeth and I started asking questions. We have a feminist dialogical model that we used to build our own model, created by a woman named Neva Karan, or we modeled it after her work doing eating disorders prevention work and research in Canada. And so we just started asking these questions. What are the pressures that you're feeling? What are the messages that you're getting? What do you want to do to change your life and your environment? And then how can we support you? So we spent many years talking to a diverse group of people, and we came up with the Be Body Positive model, which has these 5 core competencies. So I'm not going to have time to go into them all today. I recommend that if you're interested, you can go on our website and learn more. There will be ways to get in touch with us. But ultimately what I see is that in building these, what we've created, and I especially see this as a parent, like you create a container around a child to keep them in this place where they can explore and learn about themselves. And I feel that way about our competencies. So if I'm having a day where my critical voice is up and I can't find my self-love, that I can reach out to my community. Or if I'm feeling ugly because the world says an aging woman is ugly, then I can, practice my self-love. So we use them all. They don't go in order. They're just these tools. They're competencies, skills we develop and practice without ever thinking we have to perfect them. There is no perfection in this work. And what we've also done with our work is we've created a model that really does work for all people, because we're not saying this is what you should do or this is how you should live your life, because we have no idea. That every person is unique and has their own unique story. And so it still is this process of asking questions to be able to say, what do I know about myself? What is my body story? What is my history? What has happened to me? What traumas have I had that have influenced and affected how I am embodied? And then how can I find the resources that I need to make change in my life and really, really heal? I also want to say that there is a body positive movement in the world that's very big, and that's not all us. There's a lot of stuff happening that is body positive that has nothing to do with the body positive. And a lot of it's been co-opted by advertising and corporations to sell things. Our work is for all people. Our work really, truly is for every single human being, as I said, because it's about your unique story, and we are asking you and offering tools that you take and then bring them into your own life to see how they work for you. So here are actual Cal alums. These women, people, were part of our decal class that came after the first student that I talked about. And I think they started this program in 2010. And so Alex, who's on the left, is now she has her PhD in anthropology, and she's rocking the world there. And what I love about her is, in another video we did, she talked about how it was really hard to be an activist when she was thinking about if people were wondering if they could see her muffin top, you know, and how her stomach was, and did she have belly fat. And she couldn't be like this radical activist that she is in the world when she was thinking about how she looked and, you know, what other people thought of her. And so she really got the body positive piece. I met her in the femsex class, and she's doing amazing work. Lily, who's standing next to her, is a naturopath in Seattle area, and Asya, who's on the far right, is a doula, and she just told me yesterday that she's starting to teach body positive parenting and prenatal classes. So the work is really powerful and amazing, and how each person takes it out into the world. So I just wanted to talk about what it means to be embodied. The book is called Embody, and I loved it when I got the title because I love the definition: provide a spirit with a physical form. We are here on the planet because we have these. We all have bodies. Every single one of us that gets to be here on the planet has a body. And our frontal lobes and our brains have done something to mess us up to think that something's wrong with this. When you think about how animals live their lives, they go and they get their needs met if they can. They try, though, and they have self-protection. But we are in this phase of like, we have to fix and perfect this whole thing instead of just really thinking about what are our needs. What do we actually need for our lives? And then how do we get that? And we can use these wonderful brains in a different way if we allow ourselves to make peace with this physical form. One of the things that I really understood after working with people with my hands was that there's this real split where it's like, here I am, me, here's my body, me and my body. I talk about my body like it's not part of me. Like, I'm gonna do this to my body, or my body does this and that body, you know. So there's this total split between me and my body. And I think it's so important for us to become re-embodied, because then we are in alignment, body, mind, spirit, and then from that place we can really act and fulfill our purpose and make change in the world. I mean, what I see in the people that we've worked with is when there isn't this burden of like, oh, I have to, oh, you know, all this stuff, because this gets in the way. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation with someone, but I'm so worried about, you know, what do they think about my thighs, you know, and my butt, and how's my clothes, and what am I doing? You know, it's like, oh, hi, I have no idea. So we run these critical voices. We're so separated out from the physical. And in terms of self-care, we forget to ask our body, what do you need? What do you want? Because there's so much information there. And when I was able to let go of my eating disorder, one of the first things I did, having no help, I had no therapy, nothing, there was no help at the time for me. And I just started asking myself, what do I want? Am I hungry? I don't know. How do I know? Oh, I'm gonna listen. Oh, I am hungry. Okay, what do I want? I don't know. How do I figure that out? Well, let me just start looking at food. So I would either be in the grocery store in front of my refrigerator going, what is calling to me? Ah, the color red is calling to me. Oh, this red pepper is something I want to make sure I have in my meal. Ah, it's winter, it's cold, I need something really soft, I want potatoes today. You know, so I would do this whole process. Oh, it's springtime, you know, things are lightening up, I need some more of this or that. I want to move this way, I don't want to move because I'm tired. So this whole process of asking and living through trial and error, like never getting it right all the time, because my body, you know, had to experiment. I was learning, I was relearning who my body is. And so, but I just kept asking, and I just kept coming back in, what do I know, what do I want? And then afterwards, how did it go? How do I feel? Taking time to see how I felt meant that I had to sit in discomfort sometimes. And when I was getting over my eating disorder, it was all about sitting in discomfort, like, I can't have food, yeah. And then like knowing that it would pass, and that I was okay. And so this coming home, and removing the split from our you know, mind, body, or me, my body, and integrating that allows us to have the most incredible self-care. It's really quite amazing. And again, not perfect at all. And as we go through different developmental stages in life, there are different needs and our bodies change. and our brain may not have caught up. So we start continuing, or we continue a practice that no longer works for us, and we have to then come back into, oh, now what do I know? What do I feel now? Ah, okay, something's changed. Oh, I've aged a decade. Oh, I'm in menopause. There's different needs now. Okay, got it. All right, I'm listening. So coming back to Neva Perron's work, we use the word embodiment. We were using Embody and using this, and then she came out with this wonderful research just a few years ago. So it was really nice to have it all back, this system that we're working with, and have researched also our programs at Stanford and at Cornell. That's coming out, research coming out soon. But Neva's work really, solidifies what we've known all along, is that there are these social factors that promote resilience or not. And so how can we help, especially how can we help young people really have these resources that allow them to become embodied? And I'm not going to read them all, I'll let you read them, but connected in our bodies, I'll just summarize if you can't see it from the back. Owning, we're subjects, not objects. I wrote a poem once and it was like, do I want to be an object, part of it, do I want to be an object at which people stare, or do I want to be a subject in my life, an active participant in the world around me? So it's really important to think about how you want to live your life. And I have to remember every day that my sister's dead because she didn't like the way her body looked, and how she lived her life was at war with her body. So I really do ask myself this every day: how do I want to live my life? Do I want to feel capable as much as I can, based on my life circumstances, based on my genetics, based on my, our differing abilities, just the best that I can do in this body, in this moment. And we want to be free. We want to be free to move our bodies and use them and connect them with others if we choose, and use our voices. I mean, this is one of the reasons we have one, is so we can express ourselves and be in relationship with others. And then have beautiful self-care, because we care for this body, and we want to care for it because we love it. And then we get to experience our passion. And to me, that's what it's all about. Like, I'm here for however long, I don't know. But I have this opportunity to speak based on my experience and what happened to me, and then be able to say I can share information for those who are interested in listening. All of this leads to freedom. And when you realize that you own your body and you stop picking at it, and again, not perfect, I have bad body image days too, but when we can stop really picking, we are free. And people can't sell us things that we don't want. And if you think about it, it's all about capitalism, really. I mean, me hating my body allows somebody to make money off me. People made a whole lot of money off me a long time ago, and for a really long time they haven't, unless I chose to give it to them. So I want to show just a very short video. This is one of our trained facilitators, Be-Body Positive facilitators in Canada, and I just wanted, she didn't realize the whole piece around the energy and the freedom that she would have to use to change the world. So this is just like a little...
There's a lot of serious work that needs to be done to heal the world. And the amount of time that we spend focusing on our bodies negates time that we could be spending doing really productive, life-enhancing work.
It's as simple as that, really. And yet it's so complex. It's so complex, unfortunately, because we've created a society that bombards us with messages telling us something's wrong with us. So we have to wade through the noise. And that's one of the reasons we need community, because it's really hard when you're isolated and all of this stuff is coming at you and you can get lost in it. So this is why we create body positive communities, and why it's so important to connect with people who are saying, I want to be free. I want to be free. And it starts with me. I want to free others, but it starts with me. I want to go out and I want to heal the planet, but it starts with healing myself. So this is connected to the earth. This body we have is part of the earth, and it's really important that we recognize how we can learn to love them. For me, being embodied means that I can use my privilege in the body that I have to make change in the world for others who may not have a voice. To do work that I can be an ally, and I can do work and create spaces where other people have the voice and are able to come home to their bodies. And do work that other people take out, like all of our leaders are taking our work out in the world and using it in the populations they serve. So we allow them to modify it and change it and use their own wisdom and expertise to bring it to the people that they serve. And that's, I think, my favorite part of the Body Positive. So how do we stop wasting? Oops. There we go. How do we stop wasting time? One of the ways to do it is just to start with self-love. And I love this quote, Sonia Renee Taylor, if you don't know her, definitely check her out at The Body Is Not an Apology. While not completely unrelated to self-esteem or self-confidence, radical self-love is its own entity, a lush and verdant island offering safe harbor for self-esteem and self-confidence. So self-esteem is something that everybody wants to have more higher self-esteem. But self-esteem is based on performance. And if you check out Kristen Neff's work around self-compassion, we use self-love. I love love. I mean, I think love is, such a deeper word and includes compassion and self-compassion, but it goes so much further than that. Because to me, it includes the self-protection piece. But her work is all about, people who are striving for higher self-esteem. Actually, you're constantly, you will fail at some point. You will fall down. And if you don't have self-love to hold you when you fall down, it's really hard to take risks in the world. It's hard to say, I'm going to go stand out here, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to try this, I'm going to speak, and I might, everybody might hate what I have to say, I might completely fail, I might start a business, I might completely fail. But if I have self-love, which isn't trite, it's not like I have self-love, everything's going to be fine. It's like this, to me, it's like this encompassing energy that's around me, almost like, being held, like I feel like when I held my daughter and cared for her, like nothing that she did would matter, no matter what she did, I was still there loving her. So I imagine this really beautiful energy around me that's there even on the days when it's like, yeah, I see you beating yourself up, it's okay, it's all right. It's just fear. Fear came in, and you're going to be okay. But you're going to go through it as long as you do until you get to the other side. So now that I've been doing this work, I have tools, and this is what we offer to people, are tools. But it really does come down to fear and love. And I see that we've created a society that is all based on fear. It's really hard to switch to love. But it actually, and we do an activity in our work where you can see what happens when fear is running in your head, and you can see what happens when love runs in your head. And it's really almost and can be as simple as just saying the word love and seeing how the energy shifts. So noticing when fear is coming up for you, noticing when you are in that anxious state or you're starting to attack yourself. It's just fear. Oh, it's just fear. Fear is usually like a little child inside that needs attention. So turn to it and just say, hi, what do you really need? What's going on? We do a lot of work around that, but today, unfortunately, I can't get into all of that. So the other way that we come home to our bodies is that we see our beauty and that we really connect with our own ancestral beauty. Because the beauty ideals out in the world are just a failure of imagination. I mean, when we realize that and we use our imagination to say, what does beauty mean to me? Then I get to start my definition of beauty with myself. Then I get to see that who I come from on this planet has brought this body to me. And when I see beauty in myself, I take myself out of the beauty hierarchy. So there's beauty everywhere. And I'm doing what I do every time, is like, I see all of you, and you've created this collective picture of what beauty is. It's like a painting. And I would never imagine any of you to change anything about you, because you are all part of this incredible painting that is beauty. This is my definition of beauty, and I'm included. But because I include myself first, then everybody in my world gets to have it. And it's amazing what happens when you just do that and realize that beauty starts with me. Not perfect, There are days when it's really hard, but overall we can start beauty with ourselves and step out of the game. Again, a capitalist game that makes us want to do things and separates us from each other, and we have to buy things and look a certain way, and somebody's making money off that, or somebody has control over us. And so when you say no thanks, thanks but no thanks, this is my beauty, again, freedom. I'm going to show you another clip of Fike, our leader, talking about her connection to her ancestors, and how when she really understood that her beauty came from her ancestors, it was freeing for her. And then from there, I want to do a meditation with you, and then we're going to do a whole beauty piece. So that's what's coming next. So this is Fike. This is from an interview at a workshop.
Listen to her
or training.
Talk about just celebrating all of our ancestors who made us who we are today. And I think, I was isolating like different body parts of myself and thinking of, I got this from my father. I mean, I got my hair from my father. I got my nose from my father. I got my petite stature from my mother. And just the joy in knowing that. And that I can celebrate that. I can actually celebrate that. It took a lot for me to be in existence, right? Is for generations. The beauty in that is just, I think of everything that I've learned today. I mean, over the weekend, that for me probably was the most resonant. Just that, wow, this is sacred. This is unique. There is none other than this, and all what it took for this to happen is, in some ways, a miracle. It's freeing, because then you don't have to fight it anymore. You can just accept it. This is what it is. This is what it is. This is who I am. And I don't have to do anything different. And it's okay. And it's beautiful. And we're all beautiful. Yeah.
I want you to be able to connect with your own ancestors, so get comfortable in your chair. And you can close your eyes, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, just please, you can lower your gaze, and that allows other people to have their space and their face. So take a breath into your body. See what it feels like right now as you're breathing deep. Is it shallow? Noticing how your lungs feel. Think about getting breath into the back of your lungs, a place that we don't really think about ever. Breathing into the lower part of your lungs, the lower lobes. If you want, you can imagine that with each breath, the breath is coming up from the earth and filling your body from below. The nourishing energy of the earth is being infused into your body with each breath. Noticing places where you may have tension, noticing places where you may hold fear, or you may have anger towards your body. That's okay, just notice. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to fix yourself. And imagine your breath going into especially the places in your body that you think you don't like. The places that you may have picked on, perhaps in the past, perhaps currently. The places that get negative attention. And just notice what it feels like to bring breath into these areas. Again, not fixing, but just giving conscious attention without judgment. remembering that the emotions and the feelings we have in our body and the pain and all the different things, it's just energy. Energy is held in different places. And so just noticing what that feels like. And energy changes. So now explore all the details of your body, all the places in your body, and ask, where did this body come from? Who are my people? And if you don't know them, that's okay. If you're adopted or you're not connected for some reason with your genetic parents, that's okay. Make them up. Use your imagination. You may not relate to the ancestors that you know in your life currently. For example, you may have created another lineage because of being gender fluid, and you share, like somebody did at our workshop last weekend, shared a comment about their ancestors are this brave lineage of people who paved the way for them to be able to express their gender authentically. So those are your ancestors too, the people who have influenced you and who have thrived and survived. Go back a few generations. See if you know any of the people that you're connected to. How do you feel these people in your body? These people that came together, they thrived, first of all, and then they came together and they procreated, and then that generation thrived and came together with somebody else and procreated. And here you are, sitting here in this room. Who are your people? And how do you feel them in your body? Now imagine connecting all the way back to your ancestors who still lived connected to their indigenous land. And if you have many lands in your ancestry, start with the one that you feel called to. Who are these people? And how are they connected to the land? How do they know the plants and the animals and the changes in the weather and how to survive? And sense in your body how these ancestors connected deeply to the earth, how they knew that they belonged to the earth, that they are made of this earth. And feel how your body is linked to these ancestors and how you are also an integral and treasured part of the earth. Just as you are in this moment, no change is necessary whatsoever. And breathe deeply into this connection to all of your ancestors that go all the way back to the first human being and your connection to the earth. And if you struggled with this, that's okay. Just practice it and make it up. Pretend, because pretending also allows your brain to soothe and heal and change, actually, so you can start seeing your connection to these people. And take a moment to find a piece of perhaps one of these ancestors, or imagining a collection of them, and think about how they bring beauty to the body that you have right now. What is one aspect of your physical body that has beauty because of these people who came before you? in pretending if you can't find them. Another deep, deep breath, imagining this oxygen coming into every single one of your trillions and trillions and trillions of cells. Cells that are just doing their work all the time, no matter how you treat your body. They're just chugging along, doing their best to keep you alive. So breathing in this moment, a little oxygen for them, or a lot of oxygen for them, and perhaps some gratitude for each individual cell as it does its work to keep you alive. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room. We'll do Q&A in a minute, but I'd love to have maybe a couple people share what that felt like. Anybody want to share what that felt like? Who wants to be brave? Someone, oh, Rachel.
This is far away, but
That's all right.
I felt the presence of my grandmother who died almost a year ago. And her loss deeply affected me, but I was also able to reflect on her kindness and love in my life.
Did everyone hear that? Her grandmother who died a year ago, and the connection still there of love. It's a powerful thing. And she lives in your body. Yeah. Yes.
I've done a little bit of this work, but it was fun to connect with like somebody very far back in my lineage, like a Norse goddess, warrior woman type. And it was fun to celebrate the strong parts of my body that I don't always appreciate because they're not.
Yes, the Norse goddess body and the strength is from way back. Yeah, and celebrating the strength. Thank you. So we're going to go into another activity on beauty, but I want to show you, I want to bring my colleague Elizabeth into the room with this just kind of hilarious little piece that she does and talks about her beauty. So think about your beauty and perhaps, you know, finding it in funny places.
What if we just suffer from an extremely unimaginative idea of beauty and we could expand our minds to look for beauty? What if we gave up the ritual, the morning practice of looking in the mirror for our flaws? What a terrible ritual. I looked in the mirror and I was looking for my beauty, and then I was like, I have frown lines. And I thought, how do I get frown lines? I'm like, I'm loving people, I'm happy, and how do I get frown lines? How does that get marked into my face? And then I saw some video footage of me talking to someone who was suffering in a workshop, and I was going, I thought, these are my compassion lines. That's what I'm being with people. I'm sad with them. So I'm hoping in the next 15 years my compassion lines grow into deep canyons. I spread down all the way. I can like run dribble down there. Because I want deeper compassion because that's my beauty. So if we think about beauty in more imaginative ways, if we unhitch our brain from this idea of how our waist is supposed to be at 57 or how it is supposed to be at 17, what could we imagine about our beauty?
Okay.
What if we...
So before we finish up and I take questions, I want to have you do My Beauty Is connection with somebody in the room. And this is the short version of this activity, but turn to someone near you and just say, my beauty today is, or ask the person, what's your beauty today? And it's just for today. You can change it tomorrow, it can be whatever you want. But just think about it, and maybe like Elizabeth, thinking of it coming from this place that you didn't actually think is beautiful. So challenge yourself, and maybe do it a couple times, like a few things about your beauty, go back and forth. So and if there's, 3 people, join with 3 people, however many. But just, what's your beauty today? My beauty is, and then ask the other person. Just let's take a couple minutes, and then we'll do questions. going to bring you back to the room. Bring you back here. And I want to say this is a wonderful conversation to have with people. So I invite you to do this with your friends. Just, hey, what's your beauty today? And see what happens instead of having that conversation where we pick at each other. This is a really wonderful way to connect. So questions, I want to say a couple logistical things. There's a worksheet or a sign-up sheet in the back. If you sign up for it, we'll share a free meditation and worksheet on the ancestor piece, if you want to do that. And I also want to have Erin stand up and say hello, because Erin is someone who's worked with the Body Positive for a long time and is going to be teaching a decal class, Body Positive decal class this fall. So if you're interested in that, please talk to Erin. And what else? I have some books. If anyone's interested in a book, I will be signing books. And so questions. I think we have, 5 minutes for questions? And then I'm going to stay around, so if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to talk. Comments, questions, things that feel like bullshit of what I said. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not attached. I love conversation that starts with conflict. Yes?
How do people get involved in this work? Like if you're bringing this work into your community or into...
Yes, so we train facilitators to do our work. Right now we're in the process. We have one training in Seattle in April, and then from there we are going to be putting the trainings online. So if you sign up for a newsletter, you'll find out all the things that we're doing, but right now that's what we're doing. So we work with people who work in colleges, middle schools, high schools, and also with professionals who work in other areas. Yes?
I'm interested to know, do you work with people with chronic illness, chronic pain who disembody to get a release from this pain, and how to then reconnect with their body, knowing that they're also having to connect with this pain?
Yeah, so the way our work works is that we would train someone who works with people with chronic pain, and they would adapt the materials to work with the population that they serve. So people who are in chronic pain, how do they become embodied again when it's so painful to do so? So what we do is we trust the experts and the people who work with people in these situations, and then you get to take that and figure out how it works for your population.
I'm a faculty member. I came because of interest in students in this issue. I was really surprised by the meditation because of the work that I've just been doing this week. One of my classes, I work with Indigenous community partners from California tribes. And the question to think your way back to your ancestors is very fraught here on this campus. I'm not sure if people are aware. There's over 9,000 human remains on this campus, many of them women, who are the ancestors, some of our students. The university hasn't addressed this issue. There just has legislation passed. There's a lot of ill health in those communities, especially among Indigenous women. And I was struck, I guess, by the idea of thinking your way back to the ancestors when I've just been actually working and trying to find path roads into the university to actually try to address this issue. There's other people at the university trying to address it as well. So I'm just raising it as a way, because especially in California, the research really has been definitively established the past couple of years through Benjamin Madden's work that California Indians suffered genocide. And the consequences of them are still being felt in the communities. Bodies of women, bodies held on campus. And that ancestral connection is one that they are very much looking to connect to. But there are institutional, social obstacles in the way, so that a simple imaginative path back might be a more fraught journey for some people.
Yes, thank you.
For others.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So do you feel that it's not useful, that it's useful for people, all people, to think back to their ancestors? And because I think one of the hopes is that as we all think back, then we connect to a more compassionate way of remembering what happened in our history, and that this is this hope that people are able to then honor each human being's history and sit with people and support and make change where we need to.
Of course, I'm just, I was not expecting it. The issue is that some people's ancestors were collected as objects of research and still are housed in institutions.
Yes.
And they are seeking to repatriate them to their burial grounds.
Yes.
So imagining that path back, I think would be a very different path for certain people.
Yes.
That's why I'm raising it.
Yeah.
Only, not as a matter, not as a critique, it's really striking.
Oh, I'm not thinking that, but yeah.
I was just
I love
in some
that.
very,
Yeah.
very fraught meetings. This has been, UC Berkeley has a very difficult relationship among California tribes because of this issue.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to go home and learn who the tribes are on this particular piece of land.
That's the other thing they ask for that to be acknowledged. This
Well,
is
who are they? And
this
let's
is the
acknowledge
Ohlone land.
the Ohlone.
There's
So let's
one-
acknowledge the Ohlone people right now on this land that we're sitting on. Thank you. And we go back because it is painful sometimes for many of us to go back through the history, but then connecting in our bodies and knowing that this is in our bodies, and then the healing. This is this place to do the healing. But honoring the power of these bodies that survived to get each one of us here, I think. Thank you. Yeah. There's a lot of work to do around this. Thank you.
Oh, I sort of am on the same lines as what she was just saying, you're saying. It just sort of brought me back to thinking about my ancestors, and I am who I am today because of them. And I've in the past have caught myself saying, oh, I got the obesity gene from the family, because this runs in my family, and sort of kind of thing. And it was really great to see that video of that woman sort of celebrating her ancestry, because I come from a fantastic family, although, as you said, no one's perfect, I'm not perfect. And just to kind of switch my mind to think along with celebration rather than, I just thought it was really, that part just sort of resonated for me during today's talk. So thank you.
And you are perfect. The thing that's not perfect is the practice of trying to remember that we actually are perfect. I mean, it's a weird word that's been co-opted in weird ways, but there's nothing wrong with any of us. And your family lineage of living perhaps in a larger body is not wrong. The culture's wrong. The society that tells us we're all supposed to be a certain size in order to be healthy or beautiful is wrong. And so when each one of us can say, this is my body, my ancestors gave me as much fat as I have, or as little fat, or as tall or short, or the color of my skin, the color of my eyes, my abilities, my differing abilities, all of that is all from these people. And so nothing's wrong with us. And this is what drives me crazy in our world, is this brainwashing that we think something's wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with any of us. Nothing wrong. And we work to make sure that every body is honored and celebrated. And that's part of our work at the Body Positive is I recognize my social location, and I recognize the privilege that I have. And my work is to make sure that this is not continuing to be the society that says that this one body type is okay, that is not okay with me. So I want every single human to celebrate their own body, deal with the struggles, deal with the pain, but recognize the beauty, the amazing beauty and the amazing power that comes from you being here, sitting here in this room. Thank you so much for sharing. It is after 1, so I want to acknowledge that our time is over. If people want to come up and talk with me, I love talking. And I do have some books if anyone's interested. Toby, did you want to say?
Yeah. So I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. Definitely get a book if you're interested. There's a few materials on the back table on the right side. And I just want to say on behalf of University Health Services and our eating disorder treatment team, thank you so much, Connie, for coming. And thanks to all of you for